This morning in Ethiopia, the Parliament of Ethiopia passed legislation to embed in legislative form the protections for our second bank. It's already done it for the first bank, and today did it for our second bank, which is a big deal.
Right.
You know, it's not very often you hear of a mining company having legislation passed to protect its projects, financiers, to get the show on the road, and that's what happened this morning.
Hello and welcome to the Assay TV. I am on site at 121 Mining Investment London and it's our day 2. I am joined by Harry Anagnostaras-Adams, who is the Executive Chairman of KEFI Gold and Copper. It's nice to see you again, Harry.
Thank you for inviting me.
So let's start with a quick overview of the company. We're familiar with KEFI, but could you just give us a brief overview?
Well, KEFI was formed about 20 years ago to prospect for minerals in emerging markets or frontier markets. Ironically, some of these frontier markets have had mining for millennia, but not in a modern mining sense. And essentially we focused on the Arabian-Nubian Shield from 2008 onwards and have made several discoveries there. We're arguably the leading explorer in Saudi Arabia, and we're now in the final stages of launching Ethiopia's first major gold mine. We're just wrapping up the banking work at the moment.
So as you just mentioned there, you had some news with the AFC. Could you share more about that and what it means for KEFI?
Well, because this is a frontier market for mining, Ethiopia's been a nation of great strength for millennia. But for the modern mining industry, this is the first internationally project finance mine done to international standards. Our project there, which is called Tulu Kapi. And two large African development banks, one's called TDB, one's called AFC, are our bankers. They're putting up 70% of the development capital for this project. It started as a $500 million project. There's about 300 odd million to go for the development now. And AFC and TDB are putting up 70% of that. And as part of the protective devices that governments provide major development banks to kick off a new sector, the ultimate protection for them as banks is to, in Parliament, pass legislation that embeds certain immunities and protections for them. And as a result of that, it bolsters their confidence to back a new sector and a new project. And it just coincidentally this morning in Ethiopia, the Parliament of Ethiopia passed legislation to embed in legislative form the protections for our second bank. It's already done it for the first bank, and today did it for our second bank, which is a big deal.
Right.
You know, it's not very often you hear of a mining company having legislation passed to protect its projects, financiers, to get the show on the road, and that's what happened this morning.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So let's look at your projects in Saudi Arabia. What are some of the recent developments happening at your Al Hajar project?
Well, Saudi Arabia is another irony in the sense that there's been mining there in a small scale also for millennia, but the modern industry only has just arrived, and it's arguably the hottest jurisdiction in the world now for miners to enter. And in fact, you have to be $1 billion plus company to enter the game now. Wow. In a regulatory sense. You can't bid for major new exploration licenses unless you have a market cap of over $1 billion or a balance sheet over $1 billion. And the reason KEFI can participate in that exercise is because our Saudi partners are a Fortune 100 family office in Saudi, and our new partner that's also joined our gig in Saudi is Hancock Prospecting, owned by a lady called Gina Reinhardt, very, very wealthy lady from Australia. So we're the technical guys for a very, very powerful syndicate of people in Saudi Arabia. And the new license there is essentially, it's a mirror image of an area that we've made discoveries on. It's 60 kilometres to the east and parallel, and we've been granted 920 odd square kilometres license, a whole new license for a whole area, essentially to try to replicate our success in this new area, the success we've delivered, if you like, in discovery in what's called the Wadi Bida belt, to deliver the same success in this new area that we've been granted.
So you just briefly mentioned that you operate obviously in the Middle East, and we've seen more interest in this area in terms of exploration and financing. So how do you find operating in the Middle East? Can you share more about that?
Well, it's a big contrast to what the AIM market has been for the last decade, I have to say. You know, I land in Riyadh. I'll be landing in Riyadh next Tuesday morning. And I land there and I'm surrounded by people who talk about the 2030 vision and building industrial companies and exploring and developing. And it's a long time since I've heard that language in the stock market. The stock market has been particularly weak for this sector for a good decade. I think it's starting to turn around a little bit as we speak, but to me, it's been a bit of a challenge straddling the world of sort of junior AIM stock, struggling for capital support in the game of exploration over the last decade, and landing in a country which is, you have to be a billionaire to play the game. So we've had to devise structures to do that, whereby we have joint ventures and so on to do that. And we've managed to, if you like, straddle the two worlds and bring them together. But, you know, there's no way we could have done what we've done, made these discoveries and set up a project in Ethiopia for development, unless we'd formed local joint ventures in one country with a Fortune 100 family, the Al Rashid family. Wonderful partners, a very good family. And in the other country, Ethiopia, with the government. And by virtue of forming these joint ventures with very powerful partners, we've been able to, advance these projects. And I think now the markets are turning for this sector. The allocation of capital to the mining space is improving a little bit now. It's become a strategic priority. President Trump has helped put us back on the map. You know, the need for natural resources and resource security is now on everyone's lips. It happened to be on Chinese lips for 30 years, and now it's on Western policy leaders' lips for a change. I think the mining sector is in for a tremendous rebound now that the common sense of resource security has landed back in political leaders' laps.
It's great to hear. So then finally, and to wrap up our interview today, Harry, what should our investors be looking out for in the near to midterm? Well,
the fact that we, how would I put it? In Ethiopia, getting parliamentary approval is momentous in a sense, because imagine having a project in England and saying, well, we can go ahead as soon as Parliament approves it. Everyone's saying, oh, by golly, when's that going to happen? How long is that going to take? And there's a natural concern or skepticism until it actually happens. Well, it happened this morning. And that's a huge load off our minds. I mean, I was very confident. I was assured it wasn't an issue, but it was nice to see it happen. And so what we're going to see over the next months is all the pieces coming together finally to launch the Tulu Kapi gold project. And that's a project which the projections for indicate that just in the first year of production at today's gold price, we'd repay all the debt of the project. So it's a huge value creator for shareholders. That's the first thing. The second thing is that Over in Saudi, the first development project is coming to a head now. The development studies are being tabled. The financing plans are being discussed. And so there'll be a second development coming along not too far behind the Tulu Kapi project. So, I think luck is actually with us for a change, in the sense that the stars have aligned in metal prices, the stars have aligned in the geopolitics of our two countries, and our projects are actually literally taking off just as that happens. So that's a bit of luck.
Very exciting times for KEFI ahead then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harry, for joining me, and we'll see you very soon, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Thanks.